so we sorted. Give me the thumbs up. So, I'm going to start with Guardian Blue Angel, but before I start, I'm also going to give you another story. By the time I first started singing, it started basically with the 70th birthday. Were any of you there in the stadium for the 70th birthday? No hands go up. Oh, two were there. Well, I thought, because Swami had just taken my cassette, and CDs, as I said, had just been invented, so I thought that if he took my cassette, then I'll make it into a CD. And then I get a call saying, you know, Swami would like you to sing for the 70th birthday. And I'm thinking, great, I'm going to sing bhajans. But they don't need bhajans from somebody like me. I mean, there's great bhajan singers all the time. I was told, no, he wants your Western music. Now, I'm a blues singer, and blues is a type of music, in case you don't know. It comes from the 20s, 30s, a lot from America, but it's music that's never written down. It's written, if you've been working in the cotton fields or something, your life was pretty hellish, and you would sing to uplift your soul. And this is what I've always specialised in, this kind of music, although I do know quite a lot of naughty lyrics, but we won't go into that now. But that's how people cheered themselves up in the old days. So I thought, well, I was told, no, Swami wants you to do your Western music. Now, this was really, really difficult because I didn't know any songs that were suitable to be sung in the stadium. And not only that, I then went to my musicians and I said, do you want to come to India and you'll come and sing at a place, we'll perform at a place where you can't eat meat, you can't drink and you can't smoke. And you know, most of my band said, we're not going there, mate, no way. So I then had to search around for any musicians who were nuts enough to go to India for no money and to do a concert there. And I happened to find 2 Austrians and 2 English who didn't know each other. But the thing about blues is, there's a kind of layout, it's very simple music, and they kind of knew what to do, but everything was against us, basically. And I remember I was introduced on the stage. That was in the time when the stadium had a side thing where the artists appeared out of a thing that looked like a sunrise, and Swami was actually sitting in the main Shanti Vedika over there. So it was not much interaction because we were quite separated. But I did my Western music, and it's the first time there that they'd ever used a drum kit, an electric guitar. The troubles we had, even getting a guitar amplifier, was really quite difficult. And I knew that probably most of the people there were hating what I was doing because they'd never heard this kind of music. It was rocking stuff. We had a boogie-woogie piano player, and I was singing Happy Birthday, Baba, to a boogie-woogie song, never done before. But Swami looked absolutely happy, and the moment I started to perform this kind of music, he stood up and he went to the jeweler, and he was swinging backwards and forwards to this Western music. And I now know, in hindsight, that he probably was trying to get everyone to accept not just marvellous bhajans and Indian music, but to accept a slightly wider aspect of music. And let's face it, there are quite a lot of Westerners that were enjoying this kind of music. But I now know, when I've spoken to some of the students, they were students then, they're now all married, or they're teachers in the institute, in the school, and they said, yes, we hated your music, but because Swami had said, yes, you do it, we kind of accepted it. And now all sorts of music is performed there. It doesn't, from globally, how things have changed. Well, I might give you in the next couple of days an example of the blues, but as I've mentioned, Guardian Blue Angel, I think I'll start with that, because I think I might have to stand up for it, because I'm not used to singing sitting down. But if I look a bit agonised, it's because the spine, I'm wearing one of these surgical things that's meant to hold me in place. But I loathe not being able to sway. And I don't know if any of you have seen me performing in Puttapati. I sing like this. Yes. I don't care if it's bhajans. I've got a beat that's in my body and I can't stop it. So I sway. And it used to worry me. I used to think, oh God, Swami's, what are they going to think of me? And then one day, Swami came out onto the men's side of the veranda and he said, look at Dana. she's always swaying like this. And he did my movements exactly. In fact, he did them better than me. So this is one of the first songs I ever wrote about Swami, and let's see how it goes. Guardian Blue Angel. Oh, guardian blue angel, spread your wings over this weary child, so safe and sound. I'm tired of running wild. There's been so many times when you saved me from the lion's jaw, saved me from myself, you opened up the door. Oh, guardian blue angel, teach me how to fly. Take this broken angel back to the sky. Take this broken heart back to the light. Oh, help this restless soul take flight. Oh, take flight. I'm calling to you. You're the one that watches over me. Take away my tears. Show me how to see. With my hand in yours, there's a chance I can make it through. In these troubled times, I turn to you. Oh, guardian blue angel, teach me how to fly. Take this broken angel back to the sky. Take this broken heart back to the light. Oh, help this restless soul take flight. Oh, take flight. Oh, guardian blue angel. Oh, guardian blue angel. Oh, guardian blue angel. I'm going to tell you actually a rather funny story that happened because of that song. It was about one or two. I'm very bad with remembering times and dates and what I was doing when. I've got an absolute no brain for numbers, so I live in a happy fog of not knowing when, where, how, and well, I know why, but when, definitely not. And Swami had come out one day and he said, I want you to do a program in the Purna Chandra Hall. Now, I was there with no musicians, I had backing tracks, and also in those days, nobody performed with backing tracks. I'd seen so many concerts going on, 50 years ago, and it was always everyone was doing their whatever, the Indian music and tablas, and sometimes Swami would get up and go for a little, what I call a walkabout, and the musicians would just keep going till he came back and sat down. Now, if you're working with backing tracks, you can't do that. You can't, keep it going because it's as long as the songs are. And I was very worried, and Swami said, no, don't worry, I'll be there with you. So I was thinking, well, fine. And then he said, you'll have great equipment, you'll have marvellous equipment, marvellous monitor, great microphone, and so I was feeling a bit cheered up, but I was on my own, stepping out onto the stage in the Purna Chandra. And instead of having great microphones and monitor, I had the oldest monitor I've ever seen. And I had in my mind, I might have to stand up to show you this, being a bit of an old actress, I had visions of me singing and going over there to get the point across and then walking over there, because up until then, Indian musicians, especially the female singers, never laughed, never smiled, and never moved. And worse still, they never introduced the musicians that they play with. I mean, I did quite a lot of concerts with a woman called Parveen Sultana, that Swami would put her and me on as a sort of double bill. She never introduced her musicians, which for an English person is the height of bad manners, because a singer means nothing unless they have their musicians behind them. Anyway, I was there on my own, and I just remember the sort of agonizing thing of when I got given the microphone, it was there, I walk out, and instead of having miles of chords so I can go and be dramatic, there was just enough to stand there, and I couldn't move anywhere. He got me absolutely stuck. Now, as you all know, whenever anyone performs or does anything for Swami, they go and hand him a rose. Well, this put me in a problem, because for those of you that have never seen the Purna Chandra Hall, there's a sort of bit in front, like a semicircle, where the men's sat, a no-go area for women, not allowed down there, and all the VIPs and things. And then, obviously, at the back was everyone else, and it was packed. So I come out, and I knew I obviously couldn't go down with a rose, because it would mean entering the men's bit. So I knew I might be in trouble anyway, but this would have been too much. So this is when I first devised the idea of throwing rose petals on him. And I shall discuss rose petals later on in the next couple of days. So I had a big thing of rose petals, and I could see where he was, and I just went up and threw them all over him, which made me laugh, which I know most Indian performers don't laugh, especially not when they're standing on their own looking like a twit, thinking what on earth is going to happen. I had my program, there were 6 songs, and when I was doing Guardian Blue Angel, I could see Swami, I could see his eyes were down there on the floor. He looked like a sort of a tiger. It was all dark there, and I'd anyway covered him with these rose petals. And while I was singing, he leant forward and did something on the floor. He was speaking to someone, but it was all in the dark and I couldn't see what was going on. I just sort of carried on. And at the end of it, actually, he came up onto the stage and he gave me this, which I wear. This is the first thing he ever gave me. And he put it on me. But anyway, that's neither here nor there, actually. That was my first time of singing on my own. And you know, he didn't get up and go and walk about. He stayed there. Thank you, Swami. I wasn't made to look a fool. I just did my performance and I left the stage. The very next day, I'm walking through Puttapati, and a few people have got used to seeing who I was by then. Anil Kumar comes up to me. He'd never spoken to me before, and he's never spoken since. And he's always mispronounced my name and calls me Dana Gillespie instead of Gillespie. But he came up and he said, I must tell you, he said, while he was singing, Swami said to me, this was at the point when Swami had obviously leaned forward and spoke to him, he said, look at Dana, she's not just singing, she's experiencing the bliss. With that he wandered off, and I was thinking, bliss? I've never had bliss, I must tell you, never when singing for Swami, because when I've gone out to perform for him, I've done a job. I don't sing to him, I sing for him. And if I was going to sing in bliss, I wouldn't get one note out, I'd be a dribbling wreck of tears. When I have sung Guardian Blue Angel on my own when I used to practice it, I would be in tears, and I couldn't sing. I mean, I'd be like that. But when I have sung in public for him, he has switched me off so that I go out to give what I call a professional performance. you know, we can all be sitting around in bliss, but you won't be able to do anything if you're in bliss. It just doesn't work. So anyway, that's another story that goes with Guardian Blue Angel. I think I might do. For some reason, this has now got a drooping of it. I'm beset with but it's okay. It's sort of okay at the moment. It's and maybe if I put this a bit, this will do it. This will do it. I'm really bad with anything. What I call this is mechanical as far as I'm concerned. I'm hopeless with mobiles. I can't bear anything with a screen. I'm so old-fashioned. It's never going to be. It's okay. Yeah. I've moved it up. I know what I'm doing. Thank you. I'd like to do a song called Salam Alaikum. I'm only telling you this so that Sion can look for it, because it's also got another funny story. In the days when Swami used to be a lot in Whitefield, which was marvellous. You know, it would get so hot in Puttapati, and you know, about March, he used to go there for March through to about April or May. And I loved being in Whitefield, and I've still got my little flat in the Gokulam, which actually I think I'll probably have to let go, because what's the point now that Swami isn't there? But I keep my saris there. But actually, every year I think I must give it to one of the doctors and nurses needed in the super specialty hospital. Anyway, so I was there, and I noticed that every day they had bhajans, obviously, and on Thursdays and Sundays they had all the top Indian bhajan singers would be singing when Swami would come out. And the poor Westerners were given what I used to call the graveyard slot, the midday when everyone had gone off for lunch and they weren't listening at all. And the Westerners would be given 2 hours to do their bhajans. And I used to enjoy this. Everyone would be dripping in sweat because it was always hot. And Swami never came out during that time. I mean, so that's why it was a sort of the worst slot ever. And all the ladies that were there, I used to think, oh, it's such a shame we practice that they practice, and I loved what they were doing. And I said to the girl who was the main sort of teacher for the bhajans, I said, you know, this is such a nice group of ladies, why don't we make a record? Why don't we record an album? And I knew somebody that had a really nice studio in Bangalore. So I got them all pink saris of different shades of pink. I thought that was suitable to be female. And I ordered a van, a sort of a little bus to take us into Bangalore. And we were going to go in, and I got the tabla player, and I got everything organised. And then suddenly at the last minute, the guy that was going to play harmonium, and let's face it, you can't do really a bhajan CD without a harmonium, he couldn't make it. So suddenly, a boy comes past who had played in my group when Swami had asked me to perform with his students. I've got some other stories about that, but I'm jumping backwards and forwards a bit. So this boy, whose name was Sathya, he's now a teacher at the school there, he came past and he said, you know, I said, can you play tomorrow in the studios? You know, I've got a group of about 20 ladies, you know, and can you come and... Maybe it was 15, I can't remember. Anyway, can you come and play harmonium for us? And he was a very dark-skinned boy, but he nearly faded into pale white when I asked him this. He said, I can't possibly. And the Swami went, you know, I can't do it. You'll have to ask Swami. And I didn't know anyone else to play the harmonium. So the next morning was the last chance I had before all the ladies were going to get up and go into the studio. So I wrote Swami a letter. I didn't want to put it in an envelope, and I didn't want him to take the thing and then walk away. I needed a blasted answer now. So I wrote it on a huge piece of paper, and I wrote, Dearest Swami, please can I borrow Sathya to come into the studios today and record with the ladies, with a ladies' choir in Bangalore, and don't worry, he'll be well chaperoned. Oh, damn. So out he comes, and I got this piece of paper, and at that time I was sitting on the side ledge when he would come out in Whitefield. So I held my piece of paper like this, and I was sitting, I always sit on a tiger skin carpet, a cushion. And he came out and he went, oh, tiger. He said, so he noticed my cushion, and he took this thing, and he took the piece of paper, and he went, ladies' choir, and looked sort of absolute shock horror. Oh, studio with ladies. yes, you can have Sathya. Good chaperoning, please. So I knew, so he made a big drama out of this. So straight after darshan was over, I get all the ladies together. And by the way, we did make an album. It's called, what the hell is it called? Oh, it's called Sing Out. I've made so many albums I can't remember my own name sometimes. But we were trying to think, what on earth are we going to call ourselves? Now, one of the girls was 17, and then the oldest was 70. So we jokingly used to call ourselves the Brindavan Babes. But we knew we couldn't put that name onto a CD. That would be impossible. So in the end, we called ourselves the Shanti Sisters. Off we go to the studios. And I don't know if any of you know, in studios you have the control room with all the equipment and things, then you have a glass window, and then you have a big room on the other side where the performers are. So there I had with my girls, women, around various different microphones, and Sathya, being chaperoned, was inside on the other side of the glass window. But he had his harmonium set up so he could play inside and not mingle with the women. And I was going backwards and forwards to make sure that everything was right. And at one point, I went back to in the control room, and I suddenly saw Sathya's view was of the one girl in our group who was rather attractive. And she had a very good shape. Her name was Ava, she was Spanish. And when she used to sing, her hips would sway, and I thought, oh my God, I had to rush out and move her to the other side so that Sathya wouldn't have been, whatever. The funny dramas, I mean, Swami does like us to have a sense of humour, and let's face it, he does have a sense of humour. So I'd like to just do this because this is a bhajan. I've always liked this one. I must warn you though, I often make mistakes when I sing my own bhajans because sometimes when I'm in a studio, I might not do the regular layout of each line is repeated twice and then the second time run. Sometimes I make a change in the studio, then I've forgotten the change and the CD's already printed. Then I go out and sing and make a mistake. So I'm telling you now, and Swami once said to me, you don't practice enough. And how true. You cannot hide anything from Swami. But let's just do this bhajan together, because it's always nice to do a bhajan. And it's called Salam Alaikum. Salam alaikum, salam alaikum, salam alaikum, salam. 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 Thank you very much. By the way, somebody kept near the time. You must let me know when we're getting close to 7:30, because I tend to, when music's going on, I tend to lose all sense of time. And of course, I'm very much aware that the backing tracks that I sing to now, some of them were recorded 30 years ago, and in life, the elder people might know what I'm talking about. Everything drops, including your voice, but everything else drops as well. But the voice does too. But these tracks are set in one key, and I can't change them. If I could take them down a tone or two, it'd be easier for me. But sort of when I'm warmed up, it's kind of okay. I might just have a swig of water. And also, about 10 minutes before I stop, I'm going to say, if anyone has a question for me, please ask, because Swami once said to me, he called me in and he said, I'm going to give you spiritual diamonds and you're going to take them all over the world. Now, I didn't know really what he meant, but within about 6 months after that, I found myself being sent off to countries I never would have gone to. By the way, cheers. I never would have gone to otherwise. And this was when the Sai organisation was actually much more organised for people going all over different countries. I mean, I went from Dagestan to Australia to Siberia to all the Scandinavian type of countries, places that I normally would not go to. And you know, in the middle of nowhere, I'd find people that knew about Swami, and you'd wonder how they could ever know. I'm going to tell you, actually, one story was really good. We were in Dagestan, and there was a group of us, and this was when there were large Sai groups in all the Western countries in Europe. And there was one marvellous man called Steen Picolel, who was head of the Russian-speaking areas, with his wife, Inga. And we used to go off with the Russian head, Valery Voshinin, and we'd travel for 16 hours in a car, cramped in, going to some little Sai centre there and somewhere over there. So then we were in Dagestan, and somebody had said, first of all, they'd said, actually, it's quite dangerous. They keep dropping bombs, and there's always people who are furious with somebody else, and another bomb goes off. But somehow we always kind of felt protected. And we'd heard, that there was an old Sufi guy with a beard who was somewhere up in the hills. And it meant walking up 1 or 2 hours to the hills. It happened to be Ramadan, but we thought we'd go and see him because we had a couple of days off. So we loaded ourselves up with, when I say drinks, obviously not alcoholic, but they were carrying some horrible sort of fizzy orange stuff that I personally wouldn't touch with a barge pole. And while I'm here, by the way, nobody should be drinking fizzy drinks. They are so bad for you. They completely mess up your digestive system. But anyway, that's by the by. So we were taking him stuff, and we got fruit and everything. And we finally get up there, and we're sitting waiting in his prayer room. He had a big prayer room, and we're sitting on his carpet. And finally he comes in, and of course Muslims would never have anything to do with faces on the walls. You know, there were lots of scripts saying, you know, Allahu Akbar or whatever, but no pictures. And in this guy, in he walks, awful things, I can't remember his name, but that doesn't matter. And we're sitting there, and the guy who was leading the group got up and showed him a picture of Swami, and he said, do you know this man? And the Sufi threw back his head, roared with laughter, and said, know him, he's been here, and he's given me some photographs. And he took us all to a room at the back, which was about half the size of this room, and there were lots of pictures of Swami, Shirdi Baba, all that Swami had given to him in Dagestan. Can you explain that? I can't. I'm trying to think what my next song should be. I was going to write out a nice list. And is anyone thinking, by the way, of any nice questions to ask me? Oh, have you got a question?
How did you manage 12 years?
12 years in the wilderness?
Yeah. Given that you felt moments were
Well, it was interesting. I was sleeping in the sheds, bitten alive by mosquitoes. The first time I arrived there, me who'd never, I mean, I didn't go to a boarding school, I went to really quite fancy school in Sloane Square in London. I'd never slept in a room with, 100 women, and this was the first time I got there, and I looked in and they said, you've got to sleep in there, and I had to somehow rustle up a bedroll. Everyone else had got mosquito nets hanging out. I didn't know, I had not a clue what I was doing, and I just got myself my little sort of pitch. And a man came and stood at the entrance. Obviously he couldn't come in because it was the ladies' bit. And have any of you slept in the sheds? Yeah. Right, okay. It's not that, it's okay when you're with a load of friends, you can take anything, but I was alone, and there were about 6 loos and maybe 6 showers and 100 women. So you had to queue up at 3 in the morning if you wanted to get near water. Anyway, this was my first time then. At 5 to 9, lights out at 9, a man comes at the back of the door and he shouts, "Dana Gillespie." And I go, "Well, yes," and I rush up and I say to him, "Yes, what do you want?" Now, I registered in the book, in my passport is my real name, which is Richenda Gillespie. Nobody knew I was a singer, and nobody knew the name Dana. But he called me, he said, "I've been told that there's a room for you in the roundhouse. You can have it, but you must find some other people, 2 other women to share with you." So I said, "I'll take the room." And you're thinking, how am I going to find 2 women? I don't know any women. So this was the tough things of sleeping. And in those days, the roundhouse had a hole in the ground for the loo and 1 tap. And that was it. That was your showering thing. And just concrete on the floor and concrete everywhere and sort of a bit kind of slimy as well. But okay, it was a room, so I'm in there and I'm thinking, yeah, it's all very well me being in a room on my own, but I need a couple of women to come in and at least show me what to do, because I didn't know where to get photographs, I didn't know the importance of vibhuti, I didn't know anything. And I didn't know, in those days, only the South Indian canteen, which I still like the South Indian canteen, I've got to say. But, the luxury of things like the Western canteen and the North Indian canteen, those days did not exist. So it was quite tough, for me, just because I didn't have anyone to talk to. I made really good friends with some of the women there, and obviously you're not going to talk to men. And in fact, in those days, if you were seen walking along the main street with a man, somebody would come up and, if it wasn't your husband, it would be slap wrist time almost. You get a telling off. They were really, really strict. So times obviously got loosened up, and everyone's got the internet and everything. But I'm so pleased that I had these 12 years, because I had to learn. And having been an actress and done some rather what I call dubious films. I don't know if any of you have seen some of the rather peculiar films I did in the 60s and 70s, where I was always dressed in a bit of chamois leather chasing a dinosaur. This is in the days when cave girls had to go out and fight for whatever. And there was a company called Hammer Films, and they did these horror films. Before computer-generated stuff was blowing up people, I'd be attacking a dinosaur, but inside the dinosaur would be a man pulling levers, so his flippers and things would go up and down. And I'd be dressed in a bit of chamois leather, I've got to say with a bit of cleavage, but that's how the films were. But Swami never minded, and Swami always knew, and Swami always had a sense of humour, but I had no idea what I was doing in these 12 years. And it did sort of change, I've got to say, after the 70th birthday. I'm going to do prasad, by the way. I'm looking at the timing. Because then I came after the 70th birthday, when I had my blues musicians, who, by the way, I told them, well, we might get an interview the next day. He always interviews the artists. As it happened, he didn't. I got ignored still at that time. But my musicians, who weren't devotees, didn't even want to stay for the next morning. They ordered a taxi to leave Puttaparthi and go to Bangalore, where they'd wait for me. 3 times they ordered a taxi. 3 times the taxi didn't turn up. And I kept saying, you've got to stay. Do not go. Do not go. They didn't listen to me. They finally got a taxi, and they were in a taxi driver from hell who killed a dog on the road while driving there. And when they got to some ghastly, grim hellhole of a hotel in Bangalore, because I wasn't there to show them around, they were in a place with lots of rats, and they hated it and never wanted to go back to Puttaparthi. Whereas I was sort of waiting, hopefully, for an interview. but I didn't get one because, well, I didn't. But then things started to change after I'd just been there. So, I mean, I was learning by this time that interview is far more important than interview. Although I've got to say interview is pretty cool as well. You know, you do sit there and you yearn and you see him taking people in, sometimes 1 or 2, sometimes 30, and you wonder how they squeeze into this tiny little room. So I came back the following year, and this was the year that I did the Guardian Blue Angel and Through the Rose Petals. And Swami had said, no, this was the year after. I must get my years right. It's very difficult for me to remember this. So this is one of the songs that I did in this concert when I'm doing Guardian Blue Angel. And it's a song called Prasanna Ho. Do you guys know it as a bhajan? It's not one that I hear sung too much, but we used to have a marvellous lady in Russell Square, which is the Sai Centre I always went to, called Damayanta Puri, Mrs. Puri, who played great harmonium. And she did what I really love, which you go to bhajans and you just sit there, and she made sure that the microphone goes to. She didn't need to know what key. You would start and she would find the key. Now at the Sai Centre we go to, they want the keys written up, and I never know what key I'm going to start it with. It's always a bit of a nightmare for me. But she was wonderful. So this song she used to sing. Now I did this with a disco beat, and this did worry me because it was my closing song of these 6 songs in the Purna Chandra Hall. And I had no idea how Swami was going to react, because I still didn't know what he had been saying to Anil Kumar. And what's amazing is at the very end of this, I'm looking at the audience, and at the back, there were students up in white dancing. Now, I have never seen anyone then dancing to a bhajan. And there's not so much singing in it. I just want to show you that you can take a beat. I mean, it's already quite old-fashioned now, this song, with this disco beat. Even using the word disco is a bit old-fashioned. But I've sung this song in places all over Russia and Kazakhstan, and they all get up and dance. I'm not saying that you've got to get up and dance, but I'm telling you that it is an option, but I don't think any of you will want to, because you're all kind of used to how it is in Puttaparthi. But I'd just like to give you Prasanna Ho, and there's a guitarist playing. I was very lucky. I got the second guitarist from Pink Floyd, if you know that man. He was playing in, and lots of really amazing musicians who had no idea what a bhajan was. Didn't matter. They came to the studios, they played because they know me, and I was very grateful. So let's just have a little bit of Prasanna Ho, but I think I'll sit down in case I overdance and fall over. Sathya you. Well, I can tell you, it's great fun dancing to bhajans. I don't know if any of you do this at home, but, you know, you should put on your bhajans. I mean, you can't obviously do it when you're here. It's not kind of suitable. But it's great to drive to as well, by the way. You know, you drive. It's far better to be listening to bhajans, so if somebody cuts in on you and messes up your driving, you're just happy. You're just listening to bhajans and you don't care. Anyone got any other question? Oh, you got a question.
Of Swami's teachings, and there's many, which one has resonated with you the most throughout your whole life?
Well, I suppose the thing, self-confidence. He always said, self-confidence, you must have self-confidence. It's something that grows. We're not all self-confident when very young, but he always said if you can't be confident in yourself, it's very difficult for other people to be self-confident. And I think probably that was, you know, the most important thing. I mean, I've made many albums, some of them very few people listen to, but I know that what I'm doing is I'm meant to be doing it. And it's not easy when you're not a huge star or your albums aren't selling all over the place. And he's always said, whenever he's talked about self-confidence to the people, you know, to the people sitting in Buddha party, this has hit a thing with me, because I, in my profession, has to be self-confident when I step out onto a stage. But that comes with experience, actually. And once Swami said to me, he said, how's things going in the music business? I said, oh, Swami, not that well. Actually, nobody seems to really listen to what I'm doing, my music. He said, that doesn't matter. He said, I love your music. Now, and that gives me great self-confidence and joy. So I make albums that I know maybe only 5 people might hear some of my albums, but I know that Swami has said to me, I love your music, and that keeps me warm at night. So no matter what anyone says to me, this will keep me warm. I think I better, because we've got we've got 4 minutes left. 3 minutes. I can do a very quick song called Watch Over Me. And this is a song, I'm sure you've all heard of Jagjit Singh.
Yes.
And I always loved his music. He's a fabulous songwriter, but of course I don't speak the lingo, and I never understood what he was singing about. But I asked my friend, the great tabla player, who's played with me a few times in Buddha party, Pandit Dinesh, I said, I've found a song that Jagjit Singh has written. How can I get to see him and do this? I'd like to do this in English. And he said, oh, I know Jagjit Singh. I didn't realise how famous Jagjit was, and he wrote down the number, and off I go to Bombay. I call up the number. Well, actually, I asked the receptionist to call up the number because I didn't know how to work the telephone. And she nearly fell off the chair because she knew how famous he was, and I still didn't know if it was just some twit somewhere. And, you know, but he wasn't at all like that. I called him up and I said, you know, I've got this song, and you've written the melody. And he said, don't worry, I'm going to come and pick you up. Now I was staying in a flea pit hotel in Bombay. He said, I'll pick you up at the Taj, because he assumed I was staying in 5-star Glory. So I waited in the reception, and out he came, and he picked me up, and he took me to his flat where he lived then with his wife Chitra. And he wrote, and I sang this song over his version. And I'd like to sing it for you now. It's called Watch Over Me, and I always have felt, from the moment I first went to Buddha party, that thing of self-confidence, I knew that he looks after me. I mean, and I know that he looks after everyone, but you have to grow into this absolute 100%, 108% sure that Swami is there and guiding me in everything. And so this is how I happen to write Watch Over Me, but the melody is from the wonderful Jagjit. You have to stand like this. If you watch over over me. If I can't hold my head up high, and what good are stars if they don't shine so bright in the sky? I may walk alone, but I'm not lonely. Won't you watch over me? Take away my fears, oh hear me calling. Won't you watch over me? Won't you watch over me? What good are words if they don't come straight from the heart? And what good is love if there's something that keeps us apart? I may walk alone, but I'm not lonely. Won't you watch over me? How can I forget what you have shown me? Won't you watch over me? How can I forget what you have shown me? Won't you watch over me? Swami is watching over